Okay, I think this is the last one then. Sit down early, we have lots to show. First of all, thank you for coming. We're presently surprised about the amount of visitors we have here. For those who don't know, I'm thinking of a quest story to the male part. I'm the artist of Seeds of Darkness and not that much veteran pointy comics. Next to me is Naysayer. She is the artist of Find Yourself, Alice in Discord, and one step farther is Pimanda1246 Pitch from Blue Gem, who just started her comic a few weeks ago on Quest Stories. Before I give to the Double W Brothers, you all coming for, we would like to answer your questions in the end. So if you have questions, keep them until the end of the presentation. And yes, I think that's all I have to say right now. So I give with pleasure to the Double W Brothers.
Yeah, hello. We are the DoubleWBrothers. Hello. So now I have to first open the picture. Okay. Well, you maybe not know us by our name. Some of you may know us, but most maybe not. But maybe you have seen one of the so-called NLP simulators that are basically about petting the pony. And besides that, we have made a few Joe comics. So, we will. Oh, sorry. Well, we will first talk about the Joe comics and how we made them and stuff. And after that, we will come to the simulators that are the most popular comics of us. Good. So, how do we make our comics? Well, we could tell you how to draw, but we think that would be a little redundant considering that there are so many comic artists out there. Oh, I know, it would be a little redundant considering that there are so many comic artists out there who already do that. There are tons of people who tell you about the drawing and stuff, so we won't talk about this aspect. The only thing we can say concerning that is what basically everyone says. Aside from some helpful basics like the skeleton, which could be seen there, it's all about practice, practice, practice. If you have questions about that, leave that for the Q&A. What we want to tell you about is the writing, the process of inventing and coming up with ideas. And at least the way how we do it. So we will tell you today our secret. So, how do we come up with comics? Well, basically, we just talk, mainly over the phone, since usually we live in different towns and, well, can't be helped. But the thing is, that's all that's necessary. And what we, yeah, and the good thing about working together is that you have double the brain power and instant feedback. When something we also do, or that what happens often, is that one of us has an idea which is kind of fun, but not funny enough. So the other one completes it. And one more good thing about doing it together is when you tell someone a joke, the one you're working together, you will immediately see how funny it is based on the other's reaction. And when you find something you both like, well, we use it. The next part is what are our thinking techniques. So what we primarily focus on.
the thing we focus on the most is the most simple and basic question, is it actually funny? Because often you have a joke which is could be funny. Maybe it's funny, but the thing is, that is not enough. When you make a joke, it must cause a physical reaction. You have to actually laugh, or at least feel your belly contracting. Yeah, about that. Again, it's not absolutely necessary that you really totally laugh, ha 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 ha. It's already enough if you feel that in your belly and you know, your tummy. That's what we mean by that. So at least this feeling. Now we also want to talk at this point about something we often do in our comics method, which is quite effective, which we refer as the chain joke. A chain joke is, to put it simple, a chain of jokes. Most short comics, and also in the tandem, make like one or two jokes. And we like to go a little further and to do joke after joke after joke. That's our thing. And the idea to do that came to us when we saw the episode A Dog and a Pony Show for the first time. And in this episode, there are these two moments where Spike says no. And well, like I said, it happened two times, and back then I thought that he has to do it a third time. You know, in the ending, it would be a good ending joke, but it didn't happen. And so I invented this joke. Oh, Spikey Wikey, you will always have a very special place in my heart. Really? Yes, you're like a little brother to me. No! But after that, I had kind of a feeling it wasn't enough. So I added this joke. Oh, and have I told you about my new boyfriend? No! And it still didn't feel like enough to me. So I added this joke. Oh, he's not my boyfriend anymore. He's not? He's my fiance now. And it still didn't feel like enough. Who is it? Him. Why not? Back then, when I drew this comic, I thought to myself, if I do so many jokes at once, it should have some kind of effect on the audience. And this when we first uploaded it, in the first few hours, it made about 10,000 views. And when without being featured on the Quester Daily, and when it was released, finally featured on the Quester Daily, it made over 50,000. If you're used to YouTube numbers, that doesn't sound like much, but on DeviantArt, it's way harder to get views, maybe even 100 times, because it is simply the nature of things that people are more attracted to moving pictures rather than still ones. Well, but after this success, we of course continue to do more of these chain joke comics. And most of the time with the same results. And some more examples of such chain joke comics are Something About the Cakes, Sweetie Belle's Talent, and Grief. You can see them on our DeviantArt page. What we can name at this point is that our the numbers that these comics make usually were about 30,000, and if they're really strong one, 60,000. Nowadays, the interest in MLP comics has lowered, and the average is now about 20,000, which is still a lot of people. With all the time we have now run our things, and with almost all of them featured on Questa Daily, we made over 10 million views in altogether, which made us quite happy. Well, now, what are, from our experience, things that work and things that not work so well? Let's start with the things that work. Well, obviously, launching a lot of jokes at the audience does work pretty well. But it is important that the jokes are really funny, like I said before, and that you don't confuse the reader. You know that many different things happen, or it's really hard to understand what's going on at all. And if you do that, even if your jokes are good, it is like shooting all your energy in different directions. And so you have to keep the focus and make that everything happens in a certain order. So people don't get confused. Another thing that also works pretty well is to combine funny with cute. This is the MLP fandom. Of course, people are here into cuteness. Don't even try to deny it. What makes this combination so effective is because often have few things which are very good, but when you do them, they can turn out quite cheesy, like cringeworthy. And at that point, if you make fun of your own cheesiness, that is when it softens things. That is what humor can do. So you can pull things out and pull things off, which would be like, ugh. And from some people, and it still works because the humor makes it possible. Yeah. Yeah. Another thing we talk about are references. Yeah, which is a very effective thing to use. A reference about things, which is here Star Wars one that you made. And because when you put in your comics unexpected but fitting reference, people react quite positive to that. And as said, here we have one which we made from Star Wars, and we made also other ones like from 50 Shades of Grey, Attack on Titan, and what was the last one? That's something different. It's about memes in the fandom, things which people in the fandom know. This is also something you can use, like here Fallout Equestria or then Fighting Birds, things that people also know. Because when you put them in, people like to put them out, point them out in the comics and comments, and they really enjoy that. Yeah, but what are the things that don't work so well? Ah, yes, the main thing we want to talk about, don't worry. The main thing we want to talk about things that don't work so well, or at least very risky, are is darkness. And as you can see, I don't mean that the comic is so dark that you can see it. No, I mean things like dark humor and cruelty, gore, violence, sex, depressive stuff, all these kinds of things. I don't want to say. I just got distracted. No. I don't want to say that you can't use dark humor. No, no. Yeah, dark humor is very funny and popular in general. But in this fandom that is about cute flying horses that we all love and want to cuddle,
it's not exactly the best idea to be cruel to them. At least if you want a high view count. For example, once we made a comic with the title Ponycoholic. It is about berry punch, as many of you may have assumed by the title. This was the longest comic we made until that point. And it has over 20 jokes in it. And we hoped that with so many jokes, and that the view count would also be quite high. But it didn't turn out so well, because it's also quite morbid. And and that's not the only dark joke in there. And people pointed out in the comments that it was too dark for their taste. And the thing is, shortly after that, we made another comic, which was called Movie Night, and there it was about the same length and the same amount of jokes, but without the dark humor. And as we hoped, it turned out to be our most successful comic until then. It was only beaten by one of our simulators, namely the Luna one. And that's when we learned that the combination with ponies and dark humor had its roots. And well, that's it for the joke comics. Yeah, now we come to our most popular comics, the so-called MLP simulators. And for everyone who doesn't know them, they are not like Yandere Simulator or like Goat Simulator. The basic concept of it is simply you take a pony, you are in POV, and you the point of view, and you pet them. That's about it. And well, since it is almost every pony's dream, it's logical that it works quite well. Well, how did have this concept came to be? Well, basically, my brother made once a sketch of this concept with Pinkie Pie, and I liked the sketch so much that I heavily encouraged him to turn it into an actual comic. And then we uploaded it, and it became very successful, and so we continued to do more of them. When we when we made these simulators, we also, because we made multiple of them, we wanted to try something new with every character so that they would be different. I mean, petting and cuddling is the basic. Like, that is what happens by every time. But we also wanted to give them something that makes them feel a bit more unique. And, for example, the Fluttershy, we made fun of her Reddit fans who go crazy when you insult her. With Lyra, we simply gave her her dream and turned her human. And with Luna, we made a little twist into her psyche to show her inner conflict. As said, that is our most successful now. And yeah, well, after this not yet. Okay, well, let's just. And we have a little blackout here. Because, well, we forgot the paper with the text on in the hotel room.
Why don't we just give him a little applause to break the awkwardness?
Thank you. Okay, I see the remember now. Yes, well, these simulators, most of them made And yeah, and even the previous one would get additional thousands of views with each new simulator which got uploaded. Well, and one thing that we can say is that this success was unexpected. Um, we hope that people would like it, but that the demand for cabin is so high was yes, a surprise to us. Well, now what does work and does not work so well in these kinds of comics? Well, what always works is, of course, petting. This is what these comics are about. This is why people like them. So it's never wrong to pet the hell out of a pony. And exactly. That's also the reason why stuff like My Little Dashie is so popular. Because secretly I think everyone wants to cuddle them. Well, what also works quite well is adding humor, but it is important that people understand the joke you make as a joke. Because one thing that didn't work so well was something we did in the Vinyl Scratch and Octavia simulator. At the ending, we made a dirty joke. And because we thought it was funny, but we got kind of a shitstorm for that. Many people complained about that, at least some. One guy even said that he cried, that a little strange. And many said in the comments, oh, I'm so disappointed that it is just pandering to cloppers. And well, and we personally want in some way answer to this. We think that these few people who said that was kind of a primitive reaction. Well, but nevertheless, I wouldn't recommend to do dirty jokes in such a cute and innocent context. I mean, there are popular things like Princess Molestia, or also about the dark stuff like Fall of Equestria that are very popular despite of being dirty or cruel, but it's still quite risky. Um, these kinds of things that are popular are normally exceptions. So, yes, and another thing we like to do but doesn't work so well as many times is we like to do jokes with the viewer. That means with the person that is cuddling the pony, the person the hands you see of. And these jokes are not the nicest ones because we turned you into a pony, we caged you in Diamond Tiara's pet cage, and we even sent you straight to hell. Well, and many people, from at least based on from the comments we read, seem to take it kind of too personally, like as if they don't like bad endings regarding themselves. So dark humor really works the best if the audience does not feel personally involved. So, I think we are. Okay, well then. Well, okay, then we come to some tips for the creative process. Okay, the thing is, when you when you create something, it is important that you show it to other people. Like, oh, sorry, wrong one. No, no. Yeah, yeah. Sorry. And no, what's gone is that an important technique which will really help you develop your comics is to write everything down. You have to get it out of your head. That is the basic idea because often when you think up an idea and it's like, but it's not a good idea, so I won't use it, so I don't write it down. But that is wrong. You need to physically write it down, and that way it is out of your head. It's good if you go and like, for example, write down 50 ideas, even if all of them are bad, at least one is good or brings you to something better. Because, as I said, you need to get them out of your head. It's really helpful. And yeah, well, and after that, after writing down tons of ideas, um, you have you have to be selective again. I mean, in the creative process, you have to be, to say it in horse terms, unbridled. Let your creativity flow everything out. But after that, when it comes to choosing which ideas you use, or if there is any idea that is useful at all, then you have to be critical again. You have to choose carefully. And after that, you should test your ideas on other people. But it is important that you show it to people whose judgment you can trust. Not everyone can give you a useful feedback. And you shouldn't show it to just one person, show it to several people. Well, but it's better if they are not all the same. Yeah, well, that's it for our part. We stretched it a little bit and we were a bit nervous, but we give it now to people.
I was scared of this moment for like months already. Like, oh, it's 2 months away, it's 1 month away, it's not 2 months away anymore. So I just want to bring up this joke because I had this in my mind for like forever because I seen the presentation of the DoubleWBrothers just yesterday, and I was like, wow. And I was like, okay, I feel like it's good again after that to do a presentation of some really good people, and like, so what I want to talk about, or we want to talk about, the long time comic. Just for me, who actually knows Beat of Darkness, Punch of Death, and Blue Team? So, okay, there's a few hands up. That's it. For those who don't know, these are back to comics on DeviantArt. Two of them already with more than, or almost more than 150 pages, running for 2.5 years. And we want to give you some general advice how to do them, what you should keep in mind and stuff. And there's things I want to say which are similar to what Brenda said in her IDW comic makeup panel. So I try to keep that a little bit shorter. The first thing I really want to show you, and you do have a look up there all the time, just the time comes, is that there's like no roadmap to success. So um, there's not that one formula that works all the time, or that one formula that brings you like tons of watches or whatever. It's just like that. Some stories are easier than others. If you want to go with a dramatic story over 200 pages, it's way more difficult instead of a shipping comic or just something random slice of life. So before I want to talk about how you plan out your story is, in my opinion, the utmost important thing you have to keep in mind before you actually submit something or draw something, and that is what you want to reach with your comic. So most of the time, I know dozens of comics on DeviantArt and Tumblr actually, which started was pretty cool, awesome, and 4 pages later they just stopped for no apparent reason, and you're like, and in my opinion, it's because the artist didn't know what he wanted to reach or lost motivation. And this is what you have to do. You have to find your own motivation. And I think best reasons to start a comic is, for me, I wanted to show a story. I wanted to show doppelganger story about Twilight, how she handles it. Later, I started a comic about a blank grown mare who would have to deal with Discord all the time. And Pitch over there started a comic just because she was bored. Being, being bored as an artist, good reason to start a comic. Why not? Some to join our fandom or want to get feedback. So if you get the motivation from that, that's totally fine. Like, okay, I want to submit my stuff, I want to see the reactions. Um, Another good reason to make comics is money. Um, I'm serious about that. I know a lot of good comics on doing art which run perfectly and obviously just made for the money, like you can pay to add here, there, stuff like that. That's totally legit, especially if you reconsider the time that goes into it. The only reason you should not do it is to copy someone else or for fame. If you sit there and see like, oh yeah, I see a comic and it's totally working, I see like 10,000 watches. I want to do the same, and you like start with that opinion, and you submit your first pages. Even if they're super awesome, you will lose interest in it because you don't reach like 10,000 watches in 2 days. So that's not what you should do. Whatever you do, you should have patience and just do on, go on with what you do. Um, when it comes to story, there's one thing I just have to put out, even though Brenda did it as well, and that is, oh yeah, I forgot about that. That is pretty much 10 to 10 because I wanted to say it does not matter what kind of story you do, even if which is not otherwise. Duma Crusaders 10K is about the mainstays lost against Discord, turn evil, destroy Equestria, and Duma Crusaders rise to the heroes of that world. And it's extremely violent, actually. Like, yeah, it's extremely violent. And I'm against violence, and it still got me just because it is done with so much passion, and it is fun to see how this world develops. Another good example for to do what you like, this is actually why I wanted to show that, is Rocket Insanity. I don't know if anyone of you know that. This comic is actually um, based on Cupcakes, which should be well known by you. From Cupcakes, there exists a fan fiction that has a different ending, and this comic is a comic of a different ending story with a different ending. It's You can imagine if it's Cupcakes how bloody it is. It is extremely gory, and it still got me because he took the whole cupcake situation and went through it in full detail. He handled all the characters. It was not just, oh yeah, hi Vicky, oh I was sad. No, it is done with a lot of patience, and he added an own sub story to the subplot, and I really like it. Okay, what I actually wanted to say when it comes to planning a story is to create a golden thread. Because, like I said, a lot of artists start with just an idea. They say, like, oh, yeah, I would like to do a comic about a doppelganger of Twilight. I would just draw 3 pages, start it, and you're like, yes, I actually have no idea how this is supposed to happen. They stop. A golden thread just means that you take your core idea and combine it with an ending at the beginning, and that is the most basic of story planning you should do before you actually start drawing. It means that that way it has to start, this way it has to end, and I have to follow the path to reach that. Because if you know how the story is to develop, you can come up with so-called key scenes. I took, just to give the credit here, I took the name key scenes from PK, the author of Fall the Question, because she called it like that. The key scenes means just that you, in the beginning, you take the character and you know that you want to reach a certain thing, wants to become new prince in Equestria. And you know, hey, at the ending, the beginning is no princess, ending is princess. What do I need to get from A to B? So meeting friends, meeting mainstays, meeting Celestia, getting a mission to fulfill, and this. You have to keep these key things in mind because they help you to prevent you getting lost. And this is something, if you do a comic for 2.5 years, something that happens very fast. That you go, like, oh yeah, that's a nice idea, we'll add it to the comic. And you go away from your golden thread, just think, okay, I will add this other idea. And you can't get back to the original idea. You're like, fuck, now that I did this, I, I can't can't do it. I'm sorry for the story. You can't go back. So these things help to realize what you actually need for your story. I want to give this part to my two colleagues here, to the two ladies, because they have different ways to plan the comics. I want them to talk about their experiences, and I can do something.
I must say I never planned um, Find Yourself because he was the one who got me into My Little Pony, and I thought, okay, I can try it. I was expecting that I quit it after a part of pages, and it wasn't because I really liked it and I continued, but it's not qualified to do it like this. I really I started with no story. I just thought, okay, draw a blank slate, who has no idea what what she can do with herself, and it goes on and on and on. But you really have to do what you said, like the golden thread. Yeah, you really have to do the golden thread because I I realized I have some problems when I reach some point and I say, okay, I know the ending, I know what I want to do at the ending, and I know the start, but between it's a little bit hard to do this the way like me. Yeah, I missed my
Yeah, yeah, we didn't know how to go from A to B because we got in the spot. We realized, okay, I have this obstacle now, and I didn't know how to overcome this. So what I need to switch start
yeah.
of the scene is we miss the key scene there. We got like in a dead end at this point. You can overcome it, but it is stressful to overcome it.
Yeah, you really should like the panel from what was the name? I'm sorry, I'm so bad with names. The name
No, Brenda, actually.
Brenda. Okay, Brenda said in her panel that you really should do your text. This is another thing I never did or do because I don't know. It's not my thingy, but it isn't qualifying. It doesn't fit normally.
Hello. Yeah. Pretty much like nice as you said, I also don't plan my stuff. I actually start drawing without an idea and I make a one page of nothingness and it ends up turning sometimes into a comic. I just like what I do, I keep on doing it. For Blue Jam, I started drawing Discord and a few scenes that didn't make much sense and ended up in a few pages, the first pages actually. After I decided to try and turn it into a comic, the first things I did was to think about the golden thread. That's actually the problem that I show at the beginning, how to solve it at the ending. And if I have that, that just, well, the ideas of the jokes that I get in the middle, I just write them down. If I do, I never do. But yeah, I keep them in my mind and I use them in the middle and I try to get the structure on. So it's not fixed. Like the story, I can put things away and again on again. So yeah, I'm not much of a planner.
Okay, the first people are actually already running away. So this is really basic how to make a comic, but no biggie. What I wanted to say is a huge negative thing about planning out key scenes or write a full script for all your comic for your entire comic, especially if it's like 150-page comic, it's like super boring. Um, like if you write out your entire story in a script and you work with it for more than 1.5 years, you will get sick of it. I'm working on Seeds of Darkness now for more than 2.5 years. I'm trying to submit a page each week, and it's so bad already, actually already that in the live streams when I work on it, I'm just singing all the time. This is boring. This is boring because you think about your story over and over and over and over again. That is another reason why you like to get off track to keep it interesting for yourself. But yeah, it is helpful. Otherwise, you will get stuck sooner or later. When it comes to the story itself, there's no advice what you should do, but do what you like. Because if you think like, oh yeah, I will do a comic of Luna because she's super famous, or I do a comic of Lyra and Bonbon because shipping works so well, but you don't like those characters, uh, yeah, that's kind of obvious to say that, but you will not continue this comic. Not if you're working on it for a year or don't get money out of it. Like you don't know why you do this. So do what you do and be passionate with it. Whatever kind of story you do, actually, what you need is substance. And I may just yawn in case here there to keep it interesting. Substance means that you not only know what story you want to do, but you have to keep in mind what your character has to go through. Your story needs content or conflict. Because if you draw a comic of Twilight fighting the moon for 50 pages. This is interesting. Like the first 25 pages, and you think like, okay, yeah, even Dragon Ball throws in some content here and there. So yeah, conflicts are coming from either your character or from outside. For my doppelganger, it was to accept his role as a doppelganger. So this conflict comes from inside because the character has to deal with it. Conflict from outside would have been that the characters were blind at doppelganger saying like, no, we want you dead, so you have no chance. So decrease conflict obstacles. This can really be tough love. This is what gives your story stuff and well content. Others, um, yeah, I think that's it. What I can say about planning the story, or do you have something in your mind? Okay. When it comes to planning pages, it is different from comedy comics because in a comedy comic, you're just doing like, okay, I have a joke or a second one, a third one, a fourth one, or a fifth one. When it comes to long term, or I would just call them normal comics, you have to keep in mind that each single page is compared to a fan fiction an absolute minimum. So when you're planning a page, you have to think, okay, what have on the last two pages? Where do I want to go? And what do I want to tell with that one page? Because there are like a lot of comics online, especially on DeviantArt, with content where you think like, okay, that was a nice drawn page, but yeah, when does the next come up? Because this page gave you nothing to work with, nothing that keeps them in mind, no development, no. It's enough if there's just a little realization for the character that you're like, oh, I should do that and that. This is something you need to know what you want to show with your pages. Yeah, otherwise you will end up with 10 pages of dialogue, like I did with Silway and Fluttershy. This was just because at this point I was like, oh yeah, that's interesting. You know. So yeah, every time is established, and it seems like a lot of work, and it is a lot of work. It is like real work. Brenda Hickey already showed like how she got like text from their story writers, and I just wanted to show in this panel how I do this. It looks kind of similar to that. This is how I plan out my panels. Usually, I don't know what of my work is here because usually I do it at work. That when I have nothing to do, I plan them out. What we can see here is the one is clear panel one, page 130. Yes, there are sparkles from above smiling, silver FL just a silver above smiling, rainbow dash down right, flying, looking down. So I know, okay, I need I need a rainbow dash in the corner, looking at the characters, background, ponyable devastation. So even if I read this text like a year later, I still know what I would do with it. And we have HL that stands for Holly, and what she needs to say in it. So there's no guideline how you do this as long as you understand your audience knows. And from this, like I said, and I said it already, I know what kind of pieces I need for a panel. I draw a Twilight, a Silverlight. Yeah, background, and with that, and then in the end, it's like that. So this is how I plan every single page out, and I sit down to order them, and yeah, I know things come from that. I have few surprises. I wanted to see if you want to draw or plan some. Oh yeah, we're still designing now. What time is it? What time is it? I will hurry up a little bit because you want to. It's 16 I don't want to go with questions, so I will hurry up a little bit. Um, One thing you have to keep in mind, or you should learn, is cinema typography. I actually wrote it like that because otherwise I wouldn't have pronounced it. Our friend here said that a comic, I did say it. He said that a comic is just a really slow movie. So if you learn cinematography, it simply means, especially you should look for it on quality. So, and with cinematography means like direct the comic to the image. Think about like, okay, in this case, watercolor is fine, so I will not just take the most basic side level, the camera photo from behind the background, and then I go, oh yeah, actually, I go back totally in front into the picture, see how the image is coming up in the background, just that clear take from left side to the right side. I really like this cinematography. So I brought two papers. So I brought actually two papers to give you some advices. Yeah, it has different advantages, and especially if you go, oh, I don't have a cut page. It's a cut off page. Yeah. One advantage of cinematography is that you can use transitions if you think about them. And in this case, I still remember these are four panels just of this cut. Technically, it gives us nothing, but it is different from, oh look, we have 20 panels of twilight in the same sitting position just with the changing mouse. So we have something now. We know, okay, we know very few players we can see. This is a transition going from one page to another. And what helps is it saves time. Transition can save time, especially if you say, I want to get done a page this weekend, and I know it's a lot of dialogue you want to bring down there, so you can save time with that. Um, yeah, this is just an example for camera movement. Like we have to do it from above, we have it from the side to look back, the camera goes back, then we see in which direction to look. So it gives your comic a dynamic feeling, even though it is just a picture. It feels like a real picture. This is why I call this style of comic screenshot style, because it looks like a bunch of screenshots. What do I see here? Yeah, this is just another example of differentiation. So you see Apple gets blurring, looking down from behind, looking up. This just gives the comic some rhythm to it. So another slide. Oh wait, this is it. Oh, sorry, something else. I don't know what kind of comes after this one. Hurry up, maybe more. When it comes to the main slide thing is take time with those scenes, especially if you use them as a main character. Take the time to introduce it, not just throw it in with 10 pages of exposition. Again, I learned from DoubleWBrothers yesterday. Um, the readers have to grow interested in the character before you go full into it. So it doesn't work if you throw a character in, like right next to Twilight Sparkle, and say, yeah, that's fine. Dude, that does not work. Most readers will reject this. Another thing, I will just go on because it's crazy talk. Yeah. So each time introduce it, and if you want to go through the backstory of your creation story, try to make it important to the plot. If it's not important to the plot, then forget it. Then it's no reason to get through it. So whenever the plot demands the character to go into its backstory, like Alice did in Find Yourself, um, then it's the right time because then the reader wants to know what was there, not like, oh, there's Lucia. I want totally know its backstory. So that was the C. Another last huge advice before we come to the design and to the question round is, um, yeah, if you do a comic and you want to have several scenes in it, always add a main six character. Um, you could say, yeah, but I don't want to use a main six character, main six character. That is okay, do it, but it is helpful having a main six character in it because it works as an eye catcher. So if someone throws a scene on and you see the paper view and it's like, oh yeah, there's no scene, it's boring. And but then you choose like Gravity or Twilight, and it's like, yeah, we just put this in. Let's see what Twilight is doing there. So
That's the reason I want to have Discord in it. I thought, okay, if I really submit it on Beyond Art, I really don't know what the people see. Okay, Alice is playing, but what is it about her? And I just thought, okay, it would be boring if it's just her and crying, oh my god, I can do not. And I thought, okay, the perfect match for her is Discord. So I guess that's one of the reasons why it works. Something when these events happen, like GalaCon and stuff, people don't choose their own unique personality or anything of that sort and decide to use it. Just keep it the way it is from the start. Just don't try to break into it in the middle of the show. It doesn't make sense. Keep it the way it is, and if you do something, share those embarrassments as they were. But just don't try, because it would never be boring if you suddenly do it without um, without using the thing that actually brings your character through. Like legendary musical chairs, the character just turns like any character. People bad comments or something. Sometimes I really got comments that made me very sad. Where somebody in one of their mentions said, "This kid crying" or something. Okay, maybe it's true, but it's great when I say, okay, Angelique Kelly goes on stage just because I don't know her cry anymore. This makes me kind of lonely.
Next to each other like this, like a normal comic. But we don't have that much time. So please raise your hand if you have a question, so I know how much questions you have to answer. If there are like no questions, then we can just go on. So we have one question, with two questions. I will just go. Let's just deal with the question. If you have questions about design stuff, you can go back to that. So